On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the fourth most overlooked trauma response known as fawning or people pleasing. Welcome to the Holistic Life Navigation Channel. I'm your host, Luis Mujica. I'm a somatic educator and nutritionist, and I'm here to explore every aspect of life through the lens of somatic psychology, nutrition, and philosophy. Let's dive in. Fawning is one of my favorite topics, one of my favorite trauma responses, one of my favorite personalities to talk about because I did it for so long. I still catch myself doing it. And most of us do it and think it's actually who we are, or it's part of our personality, but it's so much deeper than that. What I find fascinating about fawning is that the body does it automatically to try to alleviate stress in someone else's body, which I'll explain more about. But let me first tell you why I'm interested in talking about this now. What really put me on the map on Instagram and in a lot of people's lives were my posts and my podcasts and my webinars around the fawning response. I think I teach it a bit differently from other people just because I feel it and I've understood it so well. And I like to teach the embodiment of it, which means how it feels when you're doing it. So you can actually identify when you're doing it and start interrupting it and essentially expressing something different instead of this reflexive people-pleasing tendency our bodies have. But I haven't talked about it in a while, except for in a recent webinar, which you can see on my website. I was in town the other day, and a friend of mine who works at one of the grocery stores came running out, tears streaming down her face, profusely thanking me for my podcasts on fawning. And she told me how much it's helping her, how much it's helping her relationship, and how much it's changing her life. And it kind of reminded me how amazing it is to learn about fawning for the first time, because I was blown away 8 years ago when I first learned about it. It gave me so much clarity, so much validation, and it helped humanize something I did that I was really hard on myself for doing or didn't quite understand. And so my goal is to do a series of videos here about fawning. And in between each one, I'm going to be taking in your comments, your questions, and weaving those into the next video. So please share this video with your friends, your family, your colleagues, anyone, clients, if you have anyone you want to share this with to get the conversation going so we can get as much nuance as possible so I can have these videos here as a resource to help people for free. So let's first understand what fawning is. Fawning is a people-pleasing response where you reflexively agree or laugh or appear to enjoy somebody else. A very simple example of fawning is someone makes a joke that you don't think is funny. In fact, you think it's disgusting or stupid even, and you laugh like it's the funniest joke you ever heard. Or someone comes up to you and starts talking to you about something you really don't care to talk about. Even the person themselves is someone you don't wish to talk with, yet you smile and you nod and you emphatically, your body shows them how much you're enjoying this conversation, even though you're not. What makes fawning so specific, or particularly makes a situation fawning, is, am I doing the opposite of what I actually feel? So complimenting is not fawning. Complimenting is telling you something beautiful about your dress, your earrings, your shirt, your face, your voice, something you do in the world. I'm just saying, hey, there's this thing about you I like and I'm going to tell you. Even if I'm trying to charm you, still honest. And let's say appeasing or being generous or being kind or thoughtful is very different because I want to be. Now, I can be kind and not have a lot of energy. I can be exhausted and a friend says, can you listen to me? I need 20 minutes to cry and talk. I might be really tired. I might not want to fully show up because I'm exhausted, yet I love my friend. I want to hear them. I want to spend time with them. And as long as I have a little bit of capacity to do so, I'll do it. None of that is fawning. Fawning is when your body expresses the opposite of how you feel. So instead of saying no, because I truly don't want to go out with you on Saturday, I say yes, and I say it emphatically. You say, do you want to go out to dinner on Saturday? Let's say you're someone I'm starting to date or you're a friend. And I really don't want to see you. I don't want to hang out with you. I want time to myself. I don't say, sounds nice, but I'm going to stay home. Instead, I say, I'd love to. Where do you want to go? So my body, my face, my posture, my voice is telling the story to the other person. This is the thing I want to do the most, or I want this badly. And this is where fawning needs to be studied and understood and taught. I really think it should be taught throughout school so we can understand how we can be nice and complimentary and polite and respectful without completely violating our boundaries. Because the root, I shouldn't say the root, but inherently when you're fawning, the inherent experience is a boundary violation. I want to say no, but I say yes. So in the fawning itself, you are violating a boundary by design. This is what also makes fawning very unique. It's a hybrid trauma response. So it's freeze met with performance. So you come up to me and you're talking to me at the grocery store. I really want to go home. I only have 20 minutes to myself before my daughter gets home from school, and I'm not interested in what we're talking about. I don't even want to talk to you. So my body wants to say, hey, I am sorry, but I have to get going. I want to go home and walk away. It's what my body wants to do. A freeze response comes up, constricts me against what I want to do to stop me from expressing a boundary, and a performance emerges. I laugh. I smile. I nod. I turn my body toward the individual. I gesture. I'm really looking into their eyes and saying, tell me more about this thing that I could care less about. That's the fawning experience. That's the fawning response. And that's the physiology of fawning. A part of me shuts down and freezes, even numbs out the part of me that has an honest expression of a boundary, so another part can perform the opposite of what I'm actually needing or feeling. This is one of the reasons I find it so important to educate on and to teach each other and to teach our children especially about, because if you don't know the difference between being nice and respectful and complimentary and the difference between fawning, they all start to get lumped together. And for me, I thought my fawning was my niceness. I thought my fawning was my generosity. I thought my fawning was who I was. So I didn't think I could tell people what I really needed or how I felt or what I thought or believed about something. I thought my job was to reflexively reflect them back to themselves, nod in agreement, believe what they believe, say yes to things they wanted. And what that did was create these interesting relationships where the other was so prioritized in my eyes that they felt so loved, so cared for, and so important. And they weren't. It was a reflexive automatic response. So I had lots of people, we're talking dozens of people, who all thought they were my best friend, who all thought that I really cared deeply about everything they did and needed and said. And so they looked to me that way. In a way, I trained them unconsciously to do that because that's the purpose of fawning. You want to please the other body. In reality, these people knew nothing about me because I spent all my time agreeing with them. I never disagreed. I never rocked the boat. I never allowed conflict. Fawning, in essence, is how we avoid conflict. We agree to not rock the boat with the individual. I'll tell you why in a moment. But I found this to be fascinating and important because we can feel alone with lots of people in our lives. And usually this is why we're hiding behind the mirror of them. We're reflecting them back to themselves. So there's no us in the relationship. So even though there's a person there, and there's a relationship, my body in these years was just serving to reflect everything they believed back to them, to meet their needs and to please them at all times. Now, that sounds like an excellent person to be around. Most of us would love someone who just agrees and loves everything about us. Most of us, not all of us. It's a nice feeling to be that prioritized, especially when you have wounds from your parents, when you have attachment traumas where your parents weren't there attuning to your needs. These are the kind of people that really seek and are attracted to people who fawn. And people who fawn get to have a role. We usually grow up taking care of our parents or taking care of people around us or modulating the emotions in the household. So that role feels really safe to us. So I don't see the other as nasty, horrible narcissists. And I don't see us as these like victims that manipulate people because we don't know how to be honest or we're always alone or poor us. I see it as an equal opportunity employer to secure attachment as long as possible, and secure in a way. It's not truly secure, is it? Because you can't be honest. But it allows you to avoid conflict. And when you have a history of conflict being nasty or traumatic or abusive or dangerous, avoiding conflict feels really comfortable for the body. Hey, my friends. I created a space that is affordable, accessible, and anyone is allowed to join anytime, and it's called the Library Membership. The Library Membership is an online private platform that hosts dozens of my webinars, my somatic practices, private mini lectures, and movement practices. There's also a monthly sound healing, and you'll be invited to a weekly Tuesday live mini practice with me and other participants. You'll also be invited to be a live audience member in our monthly HLN team podcast recordings, where you'll take place in the Q&A that happens off air after the episode is filmed. For more information on this membership, click on the link below, or go to holisticlifenavigation.com and click on membership and then library. You can join right now, and you can cancel or pause your subscription at any time. I look forward to seeing you in there. Now, why do we do this? Why is the fawning mechanism part of our animal bodies, part of our story? If you think of a predator, one thing that allows the predator to continue hurting you, to continue chasing you, to continue torturing you even, or abusing you, is the amount of adrenaline in their body, how disconnected they are from their felt senses, and their ability to dehumanize you, to see you as the other. So when you're able to reflexively agree and soothe and compliment and make the other feel really loved and important, it starts softening them. They actually start co-regulating to your fawning mechanism, and that settles their nervous system. And as their nervous system settles, they get a little more conscious, and they might hesitate before killing you. They might slow down in their pursuit of hurting you. A predator might stop chasing the prey in the same way. Something settles, and a sense of security is won or created or results from it. And in that security, you create enough, let's say, enough of a pause around the potential abuse or violence, or the actual abuse or violence. And in that pause, through befriending the abuser or the person, you're able to then eventually escape. This is how people who are abducted escape, even years later. They fawn and befriend their abuser. And then one day the abuser says, "Hey, you can go to the grocery store to get milk because I trust you. You love me. You're always agreeing with me. You're so kind to me. We have a relationship now." And when you leave the house to get milk, you run to the authorities. Your flight response kicks in. What you wanted to do that was frozen against to fawn finally emerges. And this is why it's so important to teach this to kids and to each other and ourselves, because fawning also turns into sexual fawning. I should say, because social fawning turns into sexual fawning. So when you're developing and you're having sexual experiences, if you already come from a background of fawning relationally to people, you'll start fawning sexually, meaning you'll do what the other does without checking in with yourself. Your no will be frozen. Your yes or your request or your desires may be frozen and numbed out while a part of you performs to make the other one feel good. I sexually fawned for years. And just like socially fawning breaks boundaries, so does sexually fawning. And it amazes me how many clients I have worked with who are in long-term, beautiful relationships, safe relationships, best friends with their partners, yet they sexually fawn. Not because there's anything wrong with the partners, though that can be a big part of it, but because they came into the relationship already fawning with everybody socially and relationally. So why would it be different sexually? They trained their partner to think they like certain things that they don't. To be even more kind and specific and fair for the person who fawns, the body trained the partner. Fawning is reflexive and automatic, and when you're stuck in it, you're just doing it all the time, subconsciously, in a dissociative manner that you can't even feel. It's in the witnessing and learning about it through what I'm teaching you, is when you start to notice when it's happening, you start to interrupt it, and you start to relate to it more consciously and different. So I find this important because when I worked with couples that had sexual fawning, or individuals who sexually fawned with safe partners, they weren't forced, there was no threat to their lives, it was consensual sex, yet their bodies were so used to fawning, they were experiencing a violation sexually because they thought they should be enjoying this, but their body wasn't. Now, when you have 10, 20, 30 years of having sex in a way that doesn't feel good to your body, but you can't feel it because the fawning response is tricking you into thinking you like it, you're emerging with sexual trauma from a non-violent, non-abusive situation. How is that for confusing? This is why so many people have sexual trauma symptoms, yet have no sexual abuse. This is why I've worked with people who have been raped and incested and sexually assaulted, and they have the same PTSD symptoms as someone who has none of those experiences, but has been sexually fawning with their partner of 30 years. So we want to learn when we're not in the driver's seat, when we're not connecting to this fawning mechanism, we're being run by it. And so many of our relationships, our sexual experiences, our friendships, our conversations, and our social interactions aren't very pleasant. They're happening from a dissociative, numbed out body, and the other person is believing that we're having a great time. It's not that other person's fault. They aren't trained to notice when something's incongruent. It's not your fault, or the person who fawns, it's not their fault either. The body has taken over. What we want to do is leave this idea of who's responsible for this ethical issue and go into the reality. No one. The body is doing this automatically. We have to learn how to interrupt it and then teach the people we've been fawning to for years, hey, this thing I do is a habit. It's not who I am. I'm going to start changing it, and it might make me seem a little different or change the way our relationship works, but I need your support as I do this. And you will find that as you start changing this, people will have major ruptures and insecurity with you because you've been avoiding conflict this whole time, but now you're going to be experiencing it. I'm going to pause there. And in my next video, I'm going to talk about more about how it feels, how to somatically practice something that helps you interrupt the fawning response, and then how do we heal or deal or tend to the ruptures that inevitably emerge when we start accessing our honest expressions. For now, tell me your honest expression in the comments below. What are your questions? What's coming up for you? What's your light bulb moment? I want to hear where this goes for you, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching today's episode. Please like and subscribe if you found it useful, and let me know in the comments what you want me to cover next.